Let's be honest. Everyone was surprised when they discovered that Marguerite Maida, a survivor from the Degasi in Subnautica, was alive in Subnautica Below Zero. Yeah, we pretty much all freaked out. And then, right away, the questions started coming. How the heck did she survive? Didn't she die? How did she travel so far? Wouldn't she have died from about 1,000 things? These are only a few of the many questions asked. Now, as the story is starting to come together a little bit more, it's making a little more sense. In fact, the other day I found some of Marguerite's personal logs, which basically told me what happened. I'm sure the story will start to make even more sense as the game nears full release, but for now, this is what we have. To truly understand the story of Marguerite, we have to start where we learned about this character to begin with. Subnautica. Now, before we jump right in, I must warn you, this video contains lots of spoilers from Subnautica and Subnautica Below Zero. Please beware. Marguerite was born in the Mongolian states. She was very experienced in ship-to-ship combat and close-quarters combat. She was once part of a trans government, but was dishonorably discharged after a mission. The details of that mission are classified. Then, she was hired by the leader of the Degasi, Paul Torgal, to defend the ship from pirate raids and or rival corporations. There were 6 members on board the Degasi. The Degasi traveled past the planet 4546b while taking a detour to acquire valuable materials. Then, it was shot down by the quarantine enforcement platform and crash-landed in the vibrant crater of life we all know in 4546b. It is important to remember that the events took place prior to the Aurora, as it was one of the Aurora's purposes to find the Degasi and any survivors. There were 3 survivors of the crash. These are the characters we come to know so well in Subnautica. First, there is Paul Torgal. He is the captain of the Degasi and disagreed with Marguerite about whether or not to go deeper. He was very stubborn and complained about Marguerite constantly. Then there is Bart Torgal. He is Paul Torgal's son and appears to have a good relationship with Marguerite. He is a scientist and studies many specimens that Marguerite brings in for him. He is apparently the only thing that stopped Marguerite from abandoning the survivors and going on her own. So they must have a pretty good relationship. The last survivor, of course, is Marguerite. She definitely seems to know what she is doing and how to survive. She is probably a loner, as she almost abandoned the other survivors. She wished to go deeper and deeper so they could study more about what was going on and learn what to do. This was probably the right thing to do, although it led to their eventual demise. She has apparently killed multiple Reaper Leviathans, Stalkers, and more. Here's a voice log that really demonstrates who she is.
These conniving corporate bourgeois, inbred, incompetent, self-absorbed jerks don't have a clue. The kid's not so bad. He's even useful. But I swear, everything that comes out of his father's idiot face is a narcissistic lie. He wants to stay in this cave? His problem. I'm the one doing the heavy lifting. Screw the contract. Screw the emergency pay. When sea monsters are hunting you, you don't hide. You hunt the sea monsters. Then you build a bigger boat out of sea monster bones and you hunt bigger monsters. Keep going until there aren't any monsters left to hunt you. I'm going deeper. I'm gonna find what shot us down and I'm gonna tear its heart out. I've started the prep work. The kids taught me how to make enameled glass. I've started stockpiling metal ores to build myself a sea moth. I'll raid the indoor grow beds before I leave.
Now that we've gone over the background and the different survivors, let's get right into the story. The Degasi crashed during a period of rain and storm. They had to stay in their life pods for a long time, and when the rain stopped, they swam to the floating island as it was nearby. They built a base out of the wreckage of the Degasi and stayed on the island for some time. However, the island could only support them for so long. Then Marguerite convinced the others to go deeper. They made a base in the jelly shrimp caves where they studied more specimens and learned how to make enameled glass from stalker teeth. They eventually built a base in the deep Grand Reef. There, Bart discovered that they were infected by the Kahara bacterium, although they didn't know it by that name. Marguerite continued to bring specimens for Bart to study, and that eventually led to their demise. One day, Marguerite Maida brought an injured Reaper Leviathan back to base for Bart to study. Unbeknownst to Marguerite, another Reaper Leviathan was tailing them and attacked the base. It completely flooded their entire base. Paul swam down towards the light and was likely eaten by a crab squid or killed from oxygen deprivation. Bart swam back to the floating island to later die from the Kahara bacterium. But Marguerite is the only person we didn't really know what happened to. This is the last known sighting of Marguerite, given in the final voice log of Paul Torgal, titled The End.
The rupture threw me clear of the habitat, and the monster turned and bore down on me. Just as its tentacles came within reach, Maida appeared out of nowhere. She had a sea glide in one hand, a jagged piece of scrap metal in the other. She meant to butcher that beast or die trying. The last I saw her, she had the metal lodged in its neck as the monster did its best to shake her, contorting off into the darkness. I'm certain she got her wish, one way or another.
As you can see, the last we heard about Marguerite, she was trying to kill the Reaper using a piece of jagged scrap metal. She saved Paul and lodged the scrap metal into the Leviathan's neck. The Reaper Leviathan carried her away into the darkness. From what we now know, that was probably the Void. Many people thought she died there, but it turns out she didn't. As we see her in Subnautica Below Zero, she must have survived somehow. And this is where this all gets very interesting. This is where we find out how she miraculously survives and makes it to Sector 0, the playable area in Subnautica Below Zero, to help the main character in the game, Rob and Ayu. Here are the 12 logs I found that tell us what happened. I will read them to you as there are no voice acting for them yet, and then explain them a little more in depth. Marguerite's log number 1. There I was, 500 meters below sea level. Chunks of the sea base sinking around me, one hand flailing against the monster's scales, the other gripping the shard of metal I had lodged in her eye socket. A Reaper. Wounded maybe, but still deadly. You don't need brains to win a fight. You just need to do more damage in less time than the other guy. If you got time to think that a good defense is part of a good offense, then you'll be doing it from the floor where your head stops rolling. I'd already taken out one eye. I dang near carved the other one out, and then I saw where the creature had carried us. We were clear of the caverns, headed for the void at the crater's edge. Blinded, she was spiraling deeper. I had no choice. Hold on or let go. I figured the Torgles were already dead. Figured if I let go of this monster, it had every reason to turn back around and finish me off. Even blind, they can hear food. So it was a choice. But it was a choice between finishing a fight or the total unknown. And I already had my blade in her head, so I held on, and she took us deeper. Marguerite's log number 2. I had 1 minute of air in the tank. Back then, I could go another 3 with what I had in my lungs. So I had 4 minutes to kill the Reaper, minus a few to get back to the surface. It ain't that I like killing folks. It's just sometimes what you need is on the inside of someone else's ribcage. I ain't one to question when's when, so we fought. Neither one of us was gonna give up. But unlike her, I was under time pressure. Once she was dead, I made for the surface. When I caught my breath, I realized we'd come further out than I thought. No landmarks, no life, no seabed, just ocean. I was out in the void, further than I'd been before, and the current was carrying me out to sea. Marguerite's log number 3. That far out to sea, swimming back for land wasn't an option. All I could do was survive long enough to wash up somewhere. I had a knife, a repair tool, and 3 liters of water. Thirst and sea monsters weren't gonna kill me, but if I kept fighting them, exhaustion might. I needed buoyancy. Just then, I felt something brush past my foot. I looked down. There were vast jaws rising out of the water towards me. Marguerite's log number 4. It had taken a couple of hours for the Reaper's corpse to float to the surface. Using the knife, I clambered up her flank and got a perch on top. I figured she'd float for a few days at least. Enough for me to catch my breath. But would she sink before or after I died of thirst? I knew I could go more than a week on 3 liters of water. I also knew I'd be dead in less than 2. Now those Reapers, they're practically all muscle, but there is some fat in there. And I didn't have much, but I had that repair tool, so I had a spark. It took a week to light that first fire. I know more about burning properties of Reaper fat than I'd ever cared to. I could keep warm and drink the water. Who knows what bugs the boiling didn't kill, but I was already sick and it hadn't killed me yet. Marguerite's log number 5. A fortnight into our voyage, I was more or less living inside the creature's ribcage. It meant shelter and it meant food. The flesh was starting to rot, but a moment's work with a knife saw to that. With only so much fat to burn, I was having to ration the fires. But I could cook all I needed while they lasted. As time passed, I started to think on what I could do to steer the boat. That Reaper, she was built streamlined, I'll give her that. The currents were taking us this way and that, but she was holding a steady direction. I began to have in mind some kind of rigging system. Perhaps I could pull on her fins to change our direction. It took me all day to rig one lousy rope from the sun-dried intestines I had in plentiful supply. And 1 heartbeat it took for the rope to tighten around the fins and pull them clean from the body. She was already decomposing. Marguerite's log number 6. We were floating west. Day by day, the outskirts of the Reaper were being eaten by creatures smaller than I could see. I was praying for anything but more water. The gods have a funny way of obliging. I had to laugh when it started to snow. On the upside, my raft was starting to freeze. We were protected from scavenging and gained buoyancy in the process. On the downside, my fingers were turning purple. The snow turned to sleet, then hail. No ordinary hail, neither. This stuff could brain a Marine through a plasteel helmet. I couldn't survive it for long. That was when I saw the wall of ice. Marguerite's log number 7. In retrospect, what I liked about where we crashed was the problems were straightforward. Short on food? Kill some fish. Need building materials? Kill the bigger fish. Being attacked by sea monsters? Same solution. I did not appreciate it at the time, because I had not yet washed up on this gosh dang cold cartoon cute winter wonderland. I can't fight icebergs. I've been here 3 days, I've tried. I've got no builder, no fabricator. If I'll survive here, it'll be the old-fashioned way. Marguerite's log number 8. I may have crossed an ocean to be here in this ice world, but gosh dang if these fish don't look and taste just exactly like the ones I've been eating since the crash. Maybe better cooked over a real fire. I was wrong about this place. There's dry land. Caves. I could survive there if there weren't something else waiting to kill me. The blisters are coming up faster than I can take a needle to them. Darn kid, always right. He knew I was sick before I even started to itch. He said we could slow it down, but I can see it growing on my skin. I reckon I have a few weeks. Might as well enjoy myself. Marguerite's log number 9. They skipped this one for some reason. I don't know why. Marguerite's log number 10. Figured I'd die before I came to record this. After 10 long years, Alterra has arrived. I'm going home. I woke and there was a dang station in the sky. Ships are landing. I'm gonna get off this rock. I could turn myself in. They might throw me into prison with the space dock nearby. But I'd be hard-pressed to fight an entire space station. Better I bide my time and steal a ship. Marguerite's log number 11. I figured I could waltz on board one of Alterra's ship and hightail it. I was wrong. Every ship on this planet flies autopilot to one place, that space station. All the while more Alterrans are landing. One of them might be able to get a ship. I just need to find out who it is and apply some persuasion. They still have no idea I'm here. And while I aim to keep it that way, I've been taking advantage of it. They're not expecting tools or documents to go missing. If they even notice, they'd only have themselves to blame. Now I've built a habitat. I'm prawn. Bring the fight to them. Marguerite's log number 12. The way those Alterrans were guarding it, I figured when I stole this dang tablet it must have some worth to it. I finally found out where it goes. There's an entire alien base built into the mountain. The tablet fit the lock, but the force field stayed up. Like it needed something extra. Alterra had an outpost there that got wrecked. They were trying to get in, but no sign they'd succeeded. On the way home, I scarcely avoided pulverizing one of them. I thought they all evacuated, but I'd figured they'd be back. She was interested in the tablet, and she didn't try and turn me in. Worth the gamble on keeping alive, but I'll keep my distance until I know more, or she becomes the problem. Okay, so to clear up some questions, here's basically what happened. She hung onto the Reaper until it carried her out of the range of the 3 ghost Leviathans that patrol the crater edge. She eventually killed it, and it floated up to the surface. She used the Reaper Leviathan for food and to make a fire so she could boil water on it. The Reaper allowed her to survive long enough for the current to carry her to Sector 0. Then, she became cured from the bacterium in the same way that all the animals are cured there, via the Sea Empress. Then, she just survived there until Alterra came. Then she stole a bunch of resources, which makes sense because in some PDA logs people complain about stolen items. And built a prawn suit, bases and more. Then you meet her on the rocket island. The story in Subnautica Below Zero is still being worked on, so I expect more context as the game nears full release. But all I know is that she is essential to the story and that you meet her multiple times. And that's it for today's video. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps me out a ton, plus it's free. Next up is 400 subscribers. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about this topic. Any questions you have? Please let me know. Also, please check out my other content. I have lots of Subnautica theory videos, Subnautica glitch videos, and gameplay videos. Check out my Discord server, Twitch, and Patreon. The links are in the description. And I will see you guys in the next video.